Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we cut through the noise to get you truly well-informed, fast. Today, we're embarking on a really fascinating and very specific quest. I think a lot of you will find it relatable, whether you're into photography or just, making strategic choices. We're diving deep into the hunt for affordable macro lenses, specifically for Nikon F-Mount cameras. And the source material we're looking at, it really presents this classic dilemma, doesn't it? Do you expand what you've already got, your existing setup, or do you maybe take a leap and start fresh with something completely new?
Yeah, exactly. And this deep dive, it's really more than just lenses, isn't it? It's about that strategic decision making.
Yeah.
How much does what you already own influence your choices, your budget, your creative path even? We'll be digging into the insights from Notes on Photography, Part 201, to see how this plays out.
Okay, so let's kick things off. Our photographer in the source, Aang, was just browsing, seeing what's out there. And something really caught their eye. A Laowa 100mm f2.8 2x macro lens. Now that sounds pretty enticing for macro work. And just to clarify, that 2x macro, it means the lens can magnify things to twice their real size on the sensor.
It's incredible detail, yeah.
Absolutely. You get these astonishingly detailed close-ups, way beyond a standard lens.
It's quite something. And what's interesting here, I think, is how that initial find, even though it didn't work out, kind of set the whole direction. It sparked that interest, But it also immediately highlighted a constraint. How often does that happen? You see something cool, and then you figure out if it actually fits your life, or your camera bag in this case.
That's such a good point. That initial spark was strong, but then, like you said, the reality check, that Laowa lens. Only for Sony F-Mount, not Nikon F-Mount. And maybe we should quickly explain. F-Mount is Nikon's DSLR standard, been around ages. F-Mount is Sony's mirrorless system. Totally different.
Completely incompatible, yeah.
Yeah. So why the fixation on Nikon F-Mount then? Why was Aang so set on that particular system? What's the thinking there?
Well, that's where Aang's history comes in, right? This is
Yeah.
about building on existing investments. Aang's a longtime Nikon user, already owns a Nikon lens, a speedlight. So the goal is actually pretty sensible. Just add a used DSLR body and the right macro lens to the gear they already have.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, the advantages are obvious. You don't have to replace perfectly good kit. You know the system, the menus, how it feels. There's comfort there, less of a learning curve, and can basically just start shooting macro sooner.
Sounds very practical. But are there downsides? Like, does sticking so firmly to one system ever mean you miss out on things?
Oh, absolutely. It's always a trade-off, isn't it? Sticking with F-Mount leverages that investment, sure, but it might mean, well, missing out on newer tech, especially in the mirrorless world. Think about, amazing autofocus tracking or in-body stabilization that works with any lens, better video, stuff that may be more common on newer systems, and some really innovative lenses, maybe super specialized macro ones. They might just not be made for older DSLR mounts anymore. So yeah, it's cost-effective, it's familiar, but it can potentially limit your future options, technologically speaking.
Right. Gotcha. That paints a clearer picture of Aang's situation. So realizing that shiny Laowa wasn't going to work, Aang did what a lot of us would do, now turn to AI, asked it to generate a list, of F-mount macro lenses, new and used. And this is where it gets really interesting for anyone wanting affordable macro. The AI came back with some very practical options. Used Nikon 40mm micro Nikkors, used Nikon 60mm micro Nikkors, and the source mentions potentially finding them for less than MYR 600, that's Malaysian ringgit, if you get lucky with a good deal, that is.
Which is a huge drop from that first lens price.
Exactly. So what makes these older, used Nikon lenses such a good starting point?
Well, this is where knowing the used market is key. Those Nikon 40mm and 60mm micros, they're kind of legendary entry points, because even though they're older designs, optically, they are generally excellent. Nikon's micro lenses are true macro lenses, designed for sharpness up close. But the crucial part, like you said, is finding a good deal. And that's not just the price tag.
Right, it's more than just cheap.
Exactly. You got to check the condition carefully. Look at the glass, any scratches, fungus, haze inside, test the aperture blades, make sure they snap open and close properly, check the autofocus if it has it. A good deal means it performs like it should, just, at a fraction of the new price. It's a smart buy if you do your homework.
That's really solid advice for anyone looking at used gear. Check everything. But okay, sometimes you might have a bit more budget flexibility. You might be willing to spend a little more for maybe better performance or features. So Aang's research also flagged another option for someone willing to go above that sub-MYR 600 level, the Tamron SP 90mm. It's mentioned as a worthy contender, clearly a step up. So what might you gain by spending a bit more on something like that Tamron? What are the usual trade-offs here with macro lenses?
This is hitting that sort of sweet spot idea in gear. Sometimes spending just a little more gets you a lot more capability. And the Tamron 90mm is a classic example. The main gain, a longer focal length, 90mm versus 40 or 60. That gives you more working distance.
Meaning you don't have to get quite so close to the subject?
Exactly, which is huge for macro. Think photographing insects that might fly away, or just avoiding casting shadows with your lens. Makes lighting easier too. Often these slightly pricier third-party options, like the Tamron, also offer really good optics, maybe a more robust build, and sometimes, crucially, image stabilization. That's a game changer for shooting macro handheld, because every tiny shake gets magnified.
Oh yeah, stabilization would be huge.
For sure. So the trade-off is, the extra cost versus these real functional benefits and potentially more creative freedom.
Okay, so we've seen the initial tempting incompatible lens, Aang's logic for sticking with Nikon, the budget finds, the mid-range step up. But all this searching, all this weighing of options, it leads Aang to this ultimate crossroads. And it's a question way bigger than just cameras, I think. Aang literally asks, or maybe I'll just start fresh with a new system entirely. What's really going on there? What could genuinely push someone to ditch a system they know and start completely over?
That is such a pivotal question, isn't it? The weight of that decision is massive because you're potentially walking away from years of investment, not just money, but familiarity too. We've talked about leveraging existing gear, but there are definitely strong reasons to hit reset. Probably the biggest is access to technology that your current system just doesn't offer and maybe never will. Think about the mirrorless revolution again. Things like incredible eye detect autofocus that just locks onto an eye.
Yeah, I've seen demos. It's amazing.
Or that brilliant in-body image stabilization, stabilizing any lens you put on it, silent shooting modes, better electronic viewfinders. These things can fundamentally change how you shoot, especially for certain subjects.
So the new tech could actually unlock new ways of photographing things.
Precisely. Or it might be about the lenses available for a different system. Maybe Sony or Canon or Fuji just have the lens you need for your specific niche. Or sometimes it's less tangible. It's just a desire for change, a fresh start creatively. Learning a whole new system, even with its challenges, can be really invigorating, like hitting a creative refresh button. It's weighing the comfort and known costs of staying versus the unknown potential and maybe a better long-term fit of starting anew.
Wow, what a journey just exploring this one decision. From that initial lens Aang saw, which wasn't even compatible, through the hunt for affordable F-mount options, right down to this huge question, build on what you have or wipe the slate clean. It really hammers home how important it is to do your research, know what you actually need, and be honest about your budget and where you want to go creatively.
Absolutely. And what's fascinating is how Aang's specific dilemma really reflects so many other decisions we make, right? That constant tension. Optimize what I've got versus reach for something potentially better but unknown. It forces you to ask, okay, when do the limitations of my current setup become more frustrating than the cost and effort of making a big change? It's efficiency versus innovation, in a way.
Yeah, it really is. Making smart choices that align with what you actually want to achieve, whether it's photography or work tools or anything else. So maybe that's the thought to leave with everyone listening. For you, when you're thinking about an upgrade, an expansion in any part of your life, when do you choose to adapt and build on what's already there, making the most of it? And when is it actually better, maybe more liberating, to step back, reassess, and just make a completely fresh start, even with the learning curve that comes with it? Something to think about. Until next time, on The Deep Dive.